intoxicants for that matter, and legislation against the meat of the swine, the meat of the pork, or the meat of the pig, they are all geared towards the happiness of the human person. Medical doctors today, or scientists for that matter, have been able to glean out the various ill effects of the pig. Look at the pig, just physically, at first sight, without you delving into the microscope. Just look at the pig. A pig doesn't even care about where it eats. When a pig, even including the wild pig, when it goes into the bush and it sees human excreta, whether in the gutter or just anywhere, anything is eatable to the pig. Even where they are kept, when you go the places where they are reared, look at the process in which it is actually killed. Very, very appalling way of killing. You enter into the meat of the swine. Unfortunately, because we were not at the office, there are a lot of videos on my PC which we could have used to demonstrate this. On the side that talks about haram, the basis, the logical basis, there have been some non-Muslim speculations which are just so not worrying, but very, very, very disappointing, because it's not even disappointing to ignorance. It is just disappointing to reason that Muslims don't eat pork because a pig went to excavate the dead body of Prophet Muhammad. I don't know where that theory is coming from. And some non-Muslims have gone ahead to say so many things that, least thought of, don't inform even the normal facts of history that are known to them. So you wonder whether such people who make reference to such jokeable facts of history are really serious. Where was the Prophet buried? Would you imagine that a man that, according to the Encyclopedia Britannica, has been the most historical of all religious personality? If you go into the Encyclopedia Britannica, it is not Muslims that are saying it. Encyclopedia Britannica is something that is one of the old, very old academic sources, and it is saying that Muhammad is the most historical of all religious personalities. Most historical here means that everything about Muhammad is available in the facts of history for people to see, even if you didn't get the data to read about him. Go to Saudi Arabia. The Kaaba Muhammad came to purge of impurities is found in Mecca. The desert of Paran, the Hijaz, the region containing Mecca and Medina are all found in Saudi Arabia. His house, the place where he built his first house when he came to Medina, is still available, and people go there. The place where he went to meditate so that he was able to have an encounter with the ultimate reality is still preserved, and people go there for ziyarah every year. There is nothing that is told about Muhammad that is not available, and you expect that Muslims will be too negligent to the extent of them failing to protect his grave for an animal, despicable animal like pig, to go and desecrate his grave. It is just something that is inconceivable. And so those people who make that statement, you just wonder whether they really think about it before they make that kind of statement. But that is academic argument. People can just say anything and go away without being asked any question. When Muslims are prohibited from taking pork, it is not because the pig has caused any problem to anybody. No, but just look physically at the pig and see whether it is really something that is that is that is eatable to human beings. The pig is noted to contain not less than 70% of worms. Ordinarily, if you want to doubt, you just get some small pig meat, then get some lime or any acidic kind of chemical, then pour it onto it and observe what will happen to the meat that you are holding there. The pig is noted to be over 70% of fat. 70% fat. Anybody who has been asked not to eat so much fat obviously would be careful when eating the meat of the swine. So the prohibition of the meat of the swine is not just religious necessarily. It is more scientific than religious. Allah knows. I always try to demonstrate some of these things using the parable of the ford. There is a certain narrative. These are not necessarily true stories. We call them allegorical stories. They are stories that are maybe even manufactured. It can be true anyway, but they are narrated allegorically for the purpose of teaching a lesson to people who are wise. So whether you want to take it as true or false, it is the lesson that it contains that we are interested in. The parable of the ford states like this. A certain man, a young man, maybe around 35, 36, from 30s going, was riding a model of a Ford when somewhere at the middle of the road. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Good. Somewhere at the middle of the road, after bypassing a town, this Ford stopped all of a sudden. Now, when a driver is riding a car and the car stops all of a sudden, the engine goes off and he's not able to crank. The first thing that the driver will have to check will be the battery terminals. If the battery terminals are all right, the next place the driver will have to go will be to check the oil, whether of the engine or of the gear or all the fluid, brake fluid and many other things that are all filled within the bonnet area or the front area, just to check whether all these are in very good shape. If a driver who is not actually knowledgeable in mechanics checks all these things and they turn out to be very good, if you don't take care, the rest will have to be followed by suspension of the car on the road. Or better still, you will have to call a mechanic to come and do the rest. So when this young man's car stopped on the road like that, and the engine went off, he just bypassed, just moved small and then parked by the road. Then he got down and opened the bonnet just to see what was actually happening. Not necessarily to go and find fault, but he was just checking the battery terminal, those things that normally we do. After going there, the battery terminal, everything was all right. But the thing was still not sparking. So he was just doing everything because where he was wasn't a place where you could get access to a mechanic easily. So then the only option left is just they're trying to do kind of thing. Then he saw a certain wretched old man walking towards him. This man seemed to have been somebody whose waist is even broken. When men grow old or people grow old, not only men, sometimes they are not able to even raise their waist well. When they are not able to stand straight, so they have to be holding a walking stick and they rest more on the stick than anything else. So you see that when they are going, it's like, that kind of walk. This man was very old. Now, as though he was just passing his journey or he was just passing, he just came and stood by this young man who was frantically doing everything within his capacity and tapped his clothes. Hello, what is wrong with your car? Obviously, this small man or young man was not disposed to telling this man who doesn't look like somebody who knows anything. So he just looked at him and was wondering, what do you know about cars? He just didn't mind him. And he was just constantly doing what he could to make sure that the car's engine started. But he was not trying. He was trying. It was not successful. And the man was also worrying him. Please, what is wrong with your car? Out of desperation and disappointment, having little hope in the man, he said, "Well, it is not starting." In a very disappointing kind of response, "It is not starting." Literally telling the man, "If you want to work on it, it is there. It is not starting." So the man just said, "Let me see." Very surprised, the young man just looked at the man with very awkward look that, "What do you know about cars?" But he gave him the benefit of the doubt. Then the man said, "Go to the front and start and let's see." "You are not serious. I should go and start. If it will work, wouldn't it have worked by now?" But well, to give the man the benefit of the doubt, he pretended as though he had understood what he was saying. So he just entered the front. And the man just touched something within the bonnet area. And then he asked the man to start, the owner to start. Then the owner started. And the engine responded. He came down and asked the man, "Who are you? What did you do to the car? Because I've been here the past 30 minutes trying to let it restart without success. What did you do? And now that you came, you have been able to say, yes, my name is Ford. I am the chief executive of the Ford group of companies. I was the one who actually manufactured the engine of the Ford car. But I'm on retirement. I'm old. As you can see, I'm very, very old. So I have appointed my eldest son to manage the company. But because I'm old, I just walk around. Every day, I just walk around just to keep me healthy. When I was passing, then I saw your car here. And I saw that by the model, it is a Ford. And knowing what is capable of stopping or making a Ford incapable of moving, I just said that no, this man needs my help. So I actually headed towards you with the objective to helping you. So please enjoy your vehicle. You see, this is what Islamic rules and regulations seek to correct in human beings. The one who created the engine of the car knows what is capable of causing harm to the car, not the one who is driving. The one who created the car knows that, look, this car is manufactured for gasoline. This car is manufactured for this. This car is not manufactured to use petrol. It has to use gas. This car is not manufactured to use gas. It has to use petrol. A car that is manufactured to use gas, if you put in petrol, you know what will happen. A car that is manufactured to use diesel, if you put in petrol, you know what will happen. It is as simple as that. You can't know more about a vehicle or an engine than the one who created it. Just suppose this along Allah, who created human beings. Allah has created you. He is the one who knows this creation he has done. He is the best person to know what is capable of destroying this creation. So after creating you, he knows very well that the system he has given you is such that you only have to take meat. You have to take fish. But this particular meat, if you take it, it will cause harm to this body. He created it. He knows what is compatible to the system he has created. And so he's telling you that do not take this one. When you take this one, this is the kind of harm that will happen to your body. What then did man say? What? How can Allah say that the meat of brachas, that's how they call it, brachas, how can the meat of the pig be forbidden? Very, very delicious meat. How can Allah say that the meat of the swine should not be eaten by human beings? What? This one there we will not agree. We will eat it. When you go and eat it and now you fall sick, who has caused it? It is you. So the rules and regulations subsumed under the concept of ethics, values, laws that are more often than not considered as divine laws are not meant to make God happy, as I indicated from the beginning. God is rather using them to set limits for you so that the body he has given you, the life he has given you on earth will be longer. Allah knows very well that time will come, HIV will be the order of the day in the world. So much as he knows that the average man is by nature polygamous, Allah says, marry the woman of your choice. In fact, even if 2 or 3 or 4, provided, however, treat them equally, treat them with justice. Humanity says, no, we will marry one. But then, well, if not, then only one is enough. So if you marry one, that is all right. It is here that somebody will say that, no, I will marry only one, but apart from marrying one, I will also go ahead to other people or other women in the name of cheating God. When you do this and you get infected with HIV, who has caused it? You can't blame God for this because God has set the limit for you and even placed very heavy penalty for your refusal to listen to him. If you engage in adultery, he has recommended very unwelcome punishment for you. But still, human beings say, no, we are going to disobey God. And then in the end, you are saying what? God placed you limits just to make himself happy. How? So at first sight, before we even go into the discussion, you have to bear in mind that the values, the rules, the laws that are believed to be divine laws are not in any way targeting the happiness of God himself. God doesn't need those rules. Whether you obey them or you don't obey them, you don't hurt him in any way. It is for the sake of your own happiness, both here and in the hereafter, that Allah has set those limits for you. If you cannot, or if you don't want to be happy here and in the hereafter, go ahead. Nobody is restricting you. That's why he gives you the free will. God doesn't need you to observe those values to make him happy in any way. If you like, just go ahead and observe them. If you don't like, just go ahead and violate them. Whatever reward Allah has for you, if you violate them, you get your reward. Allah has said, whoever commits an atom's weight of good shall see it. Everything is fairly distributed. Whoever commits an atom's weight of bad shall see it. So it is our choice. So at first sight, all that we want to put across is the fact that divine laws, divine values, rules, and regulations are not meant for the happiness of God. They are not God-centered. They are rather human-centered. The value is targeting the happiness of the human person here, not the happiness of God. God doesn't need those rules. God doesn't need you to follow any of those rules for any benefit. It is in your own interest that you avoid those things he is avoiding you. If you follow them, you will be happy. If you don't follow it, may his name be glorified. He is never sad for a day. In the Muslim literature, we read that the whole world in the sight of Allah is like the seed of, maybe say, tomato or pepper. It's something negligible. It's something insignificant. And if the world you are placed in charge of is smaller than, say, the seed of a tomato, then how big are you yourself? So whether you decide to follow the rules of God or you don't follow the rules of God, bear in mind, you don't hurt God in any way. Much of the explanation has been done now. Now let us go into the work itself. Humanism, which is normally used to contrast the so-called divine law, because they think that divine law doesn't place the happiness of the human person. But the humanism means placing the human person at the center of everything we do, instead of placing God at the center of everything we do. Humanism is therefore defined as the system of thought that attaches primary importance to the human person rather than supernatural matters. So, for example, those issues that border on divine law, which seem to take the center stage of everything we do in religion, is or are considered to be placing limits to human happiness on this planet. Humanism rather places no limits to human happiness. That's the argument of the humanist. That it is a philosophy of joyous service for the greater good. Joyous service that targets the happiness, the joy of the human person towards the greater good of who? The human person. According to F.J. Nithama, an authority on this subject, it is a philosophy of joyous service for the greater good of all humanity, both in this world, this natural world, in this natural world. That is according to Nithama. The concept actually began life first in the writings of scholars way back in 1808, when Nithama published his first material on this, his first treatise on this work or on this concept. An essential ingredient of humanism is optimism. Humanists have the perception that no human being is a waste. Every human being has a certain option of becoming a great person in future. According to them, according to a humanist, even the criminal who ordinarily in the law courts will condemn to death, will condemn to very inhumane treatment, as far as the humanist is concerned, is somebody who still has something very good to offer humanity. Therefore, humanists are actually against, for example, death penalty and many others. And they have done very well because they are doing their best to make sure that some of these so-called inhuman treatments are all nipped in the bud. Today, many countries are on the verge of removing the death penalty from their statuses because they think that they they don't give people ordinarily noted to be criminals the option of contributing to society. We'll get more details about this. Humanists affirm they believe that it is permissible for man to make his own humanity, that the suffering of humanity or human beings is all because we have entrusted our life into the hands of the Creator, trying to follow only what the Creator has recommended for us. That if we try to take, as they put it, our own destiny into our hands, perhaps we'll be able to perform better in a society bereft of the signs of God than this current society that we find ourselves in. Is it possible? Can we become more human without God or without divine law than as it is now? Almost all the revealed books indicate that killing is against the will of God. Every divine book, whether of Judaism, of the Bhagavad Gita, the New Testament, or the Quran, almost all revealed books accept the fact that murder, killing of human beings, is inconsistent with established divine law. But tell me, which people are now killing human beings? Are they not religious people? Even more, in the so-called Western society, which is noted to be a secular society, where, as we are misled to believe, state structures are divested of religious contents, which communities, which societies have committed the most atrocious treatments of humanity than the Western society? They kill with fun. They kill for fun. They cause harm to humanity and praise themselves for it. This is the secular society which gave birth to what we call today humanism. Because you wouldn't tell me that humanism was born in Africa. I don't think you'll be disposed to making that argument. It is a Western construct. Which society in the world has been so careless with the human dignity to the extent of killing millions? So when such a society now moves, that religion does not lead to the happiness of the human person, know where the argument is coming from. So which society is now telling the truth? The one that says that placing the happiness of the human person in everything we do is the best, is killing millions. The one that says protecting life and property is a divine command, is killing millions. Which one do we have to rely on now? We could see that no system really is perfect. That is the point of significance. They argue that humankind is capable of independent or independently developing its own knowledge. This is the most interesting part of it for me. As well as acquiring moral virtues and artistic skills. All that these humanists are saying is that it is possible for human beings to develop their own strand of knowledge. But that is indeed possible. Unfortunately, as we indicated, I don't know whether it was in this class, we indicated that there are two types of knowledge. We have the one referred to as ilm in the Arabic language. Ilm is the worldly knowledge, which itself is not so free of religious content. Because many of this so-called worldly knowledge were taken from religion. But just call it, this is a knowledge that man indeed can develop or can build. Then we have what we call divine knowledge. Now, in the case of the world knowledge or worldly knowledge, which is ilm, in Arabic, the plural form is ulum. Ulum. Ulum, interestingly, is the Arabic word for science. Science. That should tell you that really there is very narrow differences between knowledge from the Islamic point of view, which is the worldly knowledge, because the Arabic word for the worldly knowledge is ilm. And the plural form of that ilm is ulum, which is the same word that is used in Arabic to refer to science. The implication is that the so-called scientific knowledge or worldly knowledge itself was given birth to by religious knowledge. Let me give you a very classic example of this that will help you to understand this. The word that is used in English in the Western society, the word used in English, And when we talk of the Western society, this is the society that speaks English, the language of the so-called Western society, whether in the West, East. That is English. In English, the name that is used for humankind's spirituality is religion. Religion. Religion is derived from a Greek word, relege, relege, or relegare. Relegare or relege was a form of relationship with supernatural powers. It was a kind of relationship humankind established with the supernatural powers. How did this whole notion of relege or relegare, which represented a certain formal relationship, or call it informal relationship, between humankind and the spirit world? What pushed this kind of idea? Among the ancient Greek, how the notion of relege came about is this. There were a number of processes that the people didn't have physical explanation for. And by physical explanation, we mean explanation based on physics. And the study of the physical is what we call physics. To give you a simple definition of the so-called science, the explanation of the physical is known as physics or physics. That is why we have physics and metaphysics. The physics is interested in studying worldly issues that are understood only in physical terms, while metaphysics has to do with the extra physical, which is the spiritual. Now, these people were not able to find very clear physical, or if I should put it in simple terms, scientific explanation to some processes in their life. Let me give you one classic example of these happenings in their life that they couldn't get an explanation to. For example, sometimes a door will be open among the Greek. They will be sitting down there, and then this door will close on its own. Bam! If you are sitting down there, and a door that is open now is banged by force, whilst nobody has stood up, if you want to explain this process, what will you say is the cause of the closure of the door? Maybe today somebody will say it is the air. But remember, this is a physical explanation. In those days, those people didn't understand what really this whole air issue is about. That's the physical explanation. They didn't know. And because they didn't have that knowledge, that physical knowledge, or the knowledge of physics, to say that it is the air that forces the door to close, they rather attributed this particular occurrence to the supernatural world. They thought that a certain spirit was behind, or a certain, as we call, metaphysical process was behind this physical occurrence of the closure of the door. And therefore, they had a belief that even the entrance of a house has a certain divinity, a certain metaphysical process behind it. And so the spirit that was in charge of the closure of the door was known as Janus. Janus. This is how the doctrine of gods appeared in Western scholarship. They now thought that a certain Janus was the spirit in charge of the closure of the door. Don't be surprised that later during the Roman times, this Janus became the god of the year, the entrance of the year. And that is how come January, which was earlier named as Januarius, which was the god in charge of the entrance of the year, from which the name January actually came in English parlance. So you see, the whole of the study of nature and how nature behaves, which is technically subsumed under the concept of science, began because people were not able to really believe that certain aspects of nature had some divine implications. Certain aspects of nature had divine interventions. The Western society began to think that no, the door cannot be closed by a god. Rather, there is a certain process, a physical process, that forces the door to close. And that physical process is air. Today you know it as air. It is the physics that lets you know that it is the air that closes the door. So you could see that our knowledge of the so-called science was given birth to by religion. When people began to now think that no, this is not any spiritual issue, let us find a natural, a physical cause for the closure of the door. Whence an argument came that there is a certain process known as air, which forces the door to close. If the religious people or the relegate people, that relegate being the numinous, was not the one that was attributed to the closer, or call it the closure of the door, would you have been able to generate the true cause of the closure of the door? Obviously, no. So what you should bear in mind is that the so-called scientific knowledge, the physical knowledge that the Western scholarship is interested in itself is derived from religious knowledge. So it is not possible, in other words, to disengage, to divest religious knowledge or divest so-called secular knowledge of religious content. It's not possible. That is why the more the Western society tries to take religion out of their thinking, the more they fail. Because you can't deceive nature. I hope I'm making sense to you. It is not possible to conceive a natural society without the mediation of religion. So the more and more people criticize religion, the more and more others get closer to that same religious belief. But of course, Muslims also perceive a certain divine knowledge which superimposes itself on the so-called worldly knowledge, which itself is not free from divine knowledge. Because Allah says, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. That is, nobody has the power. None has the strength except him who has been given by God. So even that knowledge that you claim you have on earth, who gave it to you? It is God. But then Muslims also distinguish between a certain type of superior knowledge. That superior knowledge, they call it in Arabic ma'rifa. Ma'rifa. Ma'rifa is what we call divine knowledge. And that knowledge is not a kind of knowledge that is given to just anybody. It is a knowledge, my God. It is a knowledge that is reserved for only limited category of human beings. Very limited category of human beings. So you and I, who are ordinary people, as far as Islam is concerned, may not have the opportunity of getting the benefit of that ma'rifa. It is only God who gives it to whoever he wishes. And if he gives it to you, no knowledge can superimpose itself on that type of knowledge. So whoever thinks that humankind can make its own knowledge and then decide to, as it were, neglect divine knowledge, neglect religious knowledge, neglect religion, such a society will never succeed from the Islamic point of view. of all the noise that America is making. The Western society is believed to be, as they keep saying, this is a secular society. Secular society. Where in the world are we having real secular society? A secular society is a society that is divested of all religious contents. Is there any, as far as it is known, do we have any true secular society in the world which doesn't have any religious institution? Go to Britain. Britain was one of the countries that argued that we are secular. That is wonderful, brilliant. But go to British politics. They will tell you we are a secular society. But you still see religious undertones. What? The monarch, the king or queen of Britain, is supposed to also be in blending religion with politics. He is also supposed to be the, they call him chief executive. He is supposed to be the ceremonial head of the Church of England. This is the church of the monarchy. You can't tell me this is an association. This is a church. Church of England is a church. It is a religious institution. And the monarch is the established head of the church. What are you talking about? And we call this society what? Secular society? In 2015, when Donald Trump was trying to trying to campaign in the heat of the confusion in the US, Donald Trump stood in front of the Supreme Court and lifted the Bible, telling the Americans that I am representing Christianity. What is sad is that many people think that Israel is a Christian state. So any confusion Israel leads, Christians will have to support them. The little knowledge they have is that much of the Christian sites are rather located in Palestine. And many of the Israeli Christians are rather even living in Palestine. For lack of knowledge, people perish every day. So Christians will be there and their own Christian brothers will be dying in large numbers. And yet, in the name of belief, they would rather be happy, rejoicing. So you see that as far as it is known, there is no, that's the argument we are trying to raise here, there is no truly secular society in the world. In the same 2015 or so, in front of the Supreme Court of the US, they had the 10 Commandments boldly inscribed on a plate and installed there. But later, Trump and his administration ordered that to be removed, just to prove to the world that we are truly secular state. Indeed, secular state. Go to the German constitution. At the beginning, within the prelims of the German constitution, we have what we call Invocacy Day. Ask those people who understand German that Invocacy Day means what? It is about invoking the supreme being. That is religion. You come to Ghana. Ghana is claimed to be a secular state. Yeah, a secular state. People have gone so close to saying Ghana is a religious country. But go and take the constitution. The constitution that is setting agenda for this secular state, it says in the name of the Almighty God. Go and take the constitution of Ghana, 1992 constitution. And then we say this and we say we are going secular. Which country can really live on the true secular tenets of politics? As far as it is known, it has not existed. So the argument of the humanist that humankind can make its own knowledge, blah, 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 doesn't have any solid theoretical or even practical foundation. That's the point we are trying to make. Humanists also uphold that a certain peaceful and humanitarian state of being is possible across humankind on this planet. It means that it is possible for us to live in peace. But as to how that peace is going to materialize is something that is hidden from many people. Because they only say it, they don't give the theoretical blueprint for achieving this peace. The person talking about peace himself has a gun behind him. And he's saying, we need peace. Look at the nonsense that is going on. Donald Trump invaded Iran, throwing bombs at very secure places that the people consider to be part and parcel of their security. After throwing these bombs, you know what they're saying? No, don't respond. Israel attacked Iran, throwing bombs, destroying their assets. When they say, UK, don't respond. Can you imagine? The very people who are talking about peace are the ones that are handling the gun. So where do we start? But humanists are saying that there is a certain peaceful and humanitarian state of being which is possible across humankind, whether of this planet or perhaps the next planet that is going to happen, which God does not need to intervene. We can make our own humanity, in other words. That a certain default order, which is not anybody's making, they are not attributing that to God. A certain default order, which the earth has it on its own, exists in this universe, which will make it possible for good to prevail, while the bad-mannered humans could be helped with quality that could make them lead a good life. What these humanists are saying is that even the so-called bad people, the killers, the murderers, the criminals, the thieves, and many others who have committed crimes and have been admitted to prison, sentenced to prison, they still have something good to offer humanity. Their central argument is that these people are not required to be killed. There is no need for them to be considered for killing because they still have something to offer humanity. They can still be rejuvenated, they can still be rehabilitated and made useful of, instead of thinking of destroying them. In other words, all that they are trying to say is that once a human person has life, there is a possible state that awaits him. If somebody now commits crime, that person can later change to become a better person. It is said that when a fool wises up, he could become wiser than the wise man. Our elders said when Okotobonyi, an uncivilized person, becomes civilized, he could be more civilized than an educated person. I don't know whether all of you understand tree, but this is something that shows very more clearly than in tree than in English. When an uncivilized person who has lived in the village becomes civilized, he could even insult a white man and tell him that he's not civilized. That is how life is. So everybody, in other words, has something special to offer the world if that person is exposed to education, if that person is exposed to rehabilitation. The criminal can be a good person in future if only he is educated, he is rehabilitated, he could be guided to become a better person in future, rather than thinking of destroying him because he has destroyed somebody. This is what we refer to as optimism. That optimism means he is likely to be better. Optimism is the belief that good things are awaiting a person in future. The opposite of optimism is pessimism. Pessimism. Pessimism is the opposite of optimism, that worse things are going to happen in future. If a person holds the belief that worse things are likely to happen, it is better than when a person becomes optimistic. When you are optimistic, when something happens and you fail, you become more surprised. But when you are pessimistic, you believe that worse things are going to happen in future. And therefore, you rather put in measures to make sure that those things don't even happen at all. So pessimism is better than optimism. Being overly optimistic could be counterproductive. It means that you believe that by hook or crook, you will succeed. But you need to also bear in mind that there is the likelihood of you falling rather than rising, so that you now prepare adequately and put in place measures to prevent a fall. Many secular ethicists argue that religion does not seem to have any human interface, or does not place the human person at the center of religion or religious tenets and prerogatives. Because as far as the humanist is concerned, if you now read the various laws of religion, God, a God, a God, God says we shouldn't do this, God says we shouldn't do that, God says you shouldn't do this. But this God is not here. This God is living in another in another state that we are not privy to. In fact, we religious religious people are able to actually prove that God is existing. But it is not a being that can be seen. Perhaps those who say it is existing, it is a being that can be experienced. But those who have not experienced or who have not had the opportunity to experience this being think that there's the whole argument of God existing is a facade. It's something that is not realistic. It is only perceived as as an imaginable or imaginary kind of uh, uh, maybe philosophy or feeling. So for such people, instead of thinking of making ourselves feel crooked, instead of creating so many inconveniences for ourselves in the name of impressing a being that we don't even know exists or not, as far as the humanist is concerned, is not worthy of it. Rather, we should think of making ourselves happy here, placing the human person at the center of what we do, and think about how this human person will be happy, rather than a transcendental high or a transcendental order who does not seem to be existing as far as our state of mind is concerned. Humanism, however, finds expression in Islam, and the writings of Al-Farabi and what do we call it, which affirm the concept of free will sustained by naturalism, provides the basis for understanding the humanistic dimension of Islam. I mean, this bears the logic of the long talk we started before we came to the test. The whole of this argument that God does not want human beings to drink alcohol, God doesn't want you to take pork, God doesn't want you to engage in fornication, God doesn't want you to engage in adultery, God doesn't want you to this. Everything is God, God, God. Everything prohibited is facilitated by a godly knowledge. So therefore, the humanist thinks that that makes religion create inconveniences, a whole lot of inconveniences for the human person. Therefore, we should rather think of a certain state of mind that will place the happiness of the human person rather than the transcendental high. But Muslims argue that their rules and regulations are more human centered. The rules and regulations that are available or that are promoted by the religion are targeting the happiness of the human person here and, of course, in the hereafter. The point of significance is that you believe in God, believe that there's a deity that is in charge of your destiny, that is in charge of your soul. When you die and he does not exist, you have not lost anything. In fact, life here on earth is a field of examination. Time will come, humankind will stand before the Lord and give accounts of their stewardship here on earth. So if you die and this God does not exist, what have you lost? You have not lost anything. But if you don't worship him and then you die and he's there, or that what he says about himself is true, you would have lost a lot. According to Miskawayhi, together with Al-Ghazali and many others, were very critical ethicists who operated more or less between the 9th century up to somewhere around the 12th century. Al-Ghazali, for example, was around the 12th century, thereabout. 12th century thereabout. And these were very top scholars, top-notch scholar, classical scholars who pay so much attention to ethics. According to Mr. Kawehi, humanism or humanity, which in Arabic is known as insaniya, humanity, humanism, is the ultimate goal of Islamic ethics. As I indicated from the beginning, as I said, that is why we devoted so much time in addressing this particular issue before we even came to the test. What does God really need from us? God doesn't need anything from us. Every law, every rule that He has given you, don't do this, don't do that, do not do this. Today, medical doctors are saying that when you take alcohol, that if it is to be possible, don't even take alcohol at all. Because if you continue to take alcohol, you may develop kidney problem, you may develop liver problem. By the way, when you continue to take alcohol in excess, what experience do you go through? Anybody who takes alcohol often, you see the sagging of the body. You see part of his cheek virtually hanging. You see the body that is below the chin or the body below the throat virtually hanging. You will see the body rather growing yellow. Anemic. You understand that? So it means that alcohol is not really something, but when somebody is taking alcohol, for those who know how to take alcohol, I have not tasted alcohol before, and I will never go close to alcohol. Neither will I even stay around somebody who takes alcohol. But at least, as far as observance has it, when people are taking alcohol, you have the opportunity of seeing their faces. When they take the truly alcoholic drinks, how do you enjoy the looks on their faces? Do you enjoy the looks on their faces? Look at the way they twist their mouth after the thing has entered their throat. Look at the way they make their eyes. It means they are not actually comfortable. But of course, this is what many people take pride in drinking. So the divine rule to force men away from the path of alcoholism is not meant to make God happy. It is you. Allah, as I indicated with the parable of the ford, Allah created your body and knows that this body He has given you can spoil easily. You can destroy it if you pump even the slightest quantity of alcohol into it. So Allah says, eschew it, avoid it. Fajtanibu, so that you may be successful. Allah says, avoid it. You understand that? Put it out so that you may be successful. It's not so that he will be successful. No. Allah says, so that you may, la'allakum tuflihun, so that you may be successful, not him. So if you think Allah is telling you not to drink alcohol so that he will be successful, then you are wrong. This argument we are talking about gained the support of the ethicist of all time, Abu Hamid Muhammad al-Ghazali, that I mentioned. He died somewhere in 1111. That is during the 12th century CE of the Christian era. And al-Ghazali was the one who wrote one of the top ethical books of Islam, Ihya Ulumuddin. Ihya Ulumuddin simply means reviving the religious science, what do we call it? Reviving the religious sciences. Because Al-Ghazali himself was a philosopher. He was a philosopher. He was a lecturer of the Nizam al-Mulk or Nizamiya College in Central Asia. Unfortunately, even though he was teaching philosophy, after reading the philosophies of after reading the philosophy of Al-Farabi, reading the philosophies of Al-Kindi, reading the philosophies of Ibn Sina, who used syllogism to deny God's knowledge of particulars. Al-Ghazali became so disabled, and therefore he resigned as a philosopher, while he was a professor of philosophy. He resigned his position as a professor of philosophy, and that is when he thought that the Islamic religious values had to be restored. That's why he named the publication that came out of it as Ihya Ulumuddin. That is reviving the religious sciences, and that's the Islamic religious sciences. So in that book, when you get Ihya Ulumuddin, you are virtually reading the encyclopedia of ethics in Islam. And in that book, Al-Ghazali actually endorsed the argument of Miskawehi. But as I said, why, if Muslims are saying that Islam is more, or Islamic values are more God-centered, are more human-centered than God-centered, what is the basis? What is the the doctrinal justification? What is the moral ground on which Muslims argue that Islamic ethical values are more human-centered than God-centered? One, in fact, the entire corpus of Islamic law aims at the happiness of the human person, both here and in the hereafter. If you like, just sit down. Think about any particular religious view, any particular legal ruling in Islam, any particular ethical value in Islam that really is God-centered. Sit down. You just sit down. Look at the various values that Muslims follow. Forget about the extremism that some Muslims actually display. These are behaviors that Muslim scholars have criticized them or critiqued them, or in point of fact, written them off with various arguments from various sources. Because I don't know whether it is in this class, Islam is based on what we refer to as wasatiyya. Wasatiyya is the Arabic word for moderation. Moderation. Muslims are referred to in the Quran as ummatan wasatan. Ummatan wasatan. Ummatan wasatan means a middle nation, literally. A middle nation. But that is a literal translation. Ummatan wasatan means a moderate nation. That's the correct translation. But in literal translation, wasat awsat means middle. So ummatan wasatan means middle nation. But whether you want to refer to it as a middle nation or you want to refer to it as a moderate nation, they are talking about the same thing. Why would it be considered as a middle nation? What two other nations are located at the two extremes? That is why you can translate it as a middle nation. The very first extreme before Muslims was Judaism. During the time of Moses, and of course the Septuagint is the 5 books of Moses, was the law of Judaism. In the laws of Moses, we are told that Moses ruled with the philosophy of the philosophy of eye for eye. If I am erring, correct me. Moses ruled with the philosophy of eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. In other words, during the time of Moses, when somebody plucks somebody's eye, that person's eye must as well be plugged. When somebody took somebody's tooth, that person's tooth must also be removed as well. So that Moses is reported to have said, when somebody slaps you, slap the person in return. That's the law of Moses. I stand to be corrected anyway. The Christians among us, God, Christians combine both the Old Testament and the New Testament. So, and of course, I'm told there's only one Muslim on this platform. So if I'm erring, tell me. The book of Moses has the philosophy that when somebody slaps you, slap the person in return. That's what we call Mosaic law. During the time of Jesus, which is the other extreme, Jesus is reported to have issued the ruling that when somebody slaps you, turn the remaining cheek for the person to slap you back. But of course, during the time of Moses, whatever law he used, he was able to achieve success. Because the kind of people Moses came to meet, if he didn't apply that philosophy, he would not have ever been successful. So he used that philosophy, and indeed he was able to succeed. So every every prophet and the kind of people he met during his time. That is why humanity can be done a great deal of the service when you try to use one standard of one prophet and use it to judge another standard of another prophet. It means you are the most ignorant of humanity. You need to examine issues contextually. Jesus Christ came to meet a different group of people. Moses came to meet a different group of people. So the laws Moses used to govern his people, if you say Father Jesus Christ, you also use the same law, you are doing a big mistake. In much the same way, Muhammad would come to meet different group of people. So to think that Muhammad will have to use the laws of Jesus to rule his own people, that is foolishness, simply put. Because they all met different people. So we don't expect one prophet to use the law of another prophet to rule his people. So at the time Moses was ruling, if he used the laws of Jesus, that would have been more chaos than anything we can talk about. Thus, Moses was able to issue the ruling that when somebody slaps you, slap him in return. In any case, if you slap somebody and you know the person will reply you, will you ever slap? Obviously, no. You won't. So essentially, we are talking about the same thing. At the time of Jesus, he said, when somebody slaps you, turn the remaining cheek. Once again, if you know that you slap somebody and the person, instead of replying to you, rather turn the remaining cheek for you to slap, will you? Definitely, if you don't take care, you may even you may even go on your knees to beg the person that please forgive me. If the person doesn't mind you and leaves you and goes home, later you may follow him to his house to go and apologize, beg him to forgive you, because it's not normal. And more often than not, even if the person doesn't reply you or talk, nature will catch up with you one day. So essentially, the point of significance is that all these prophets had a solution to their problems according to the number of people or the caliber of people that they met during their time. When Muhammad came, what did he say? Muhammad said, when somebody slaps you, if it will be possible, forgive him. Forgive him. If you like the person who has slapped you and you can afford, forgive him. But if you want to reply in an equal measure. Reply in an equal measure. The person, when he slapped you, he didn't dislocate your cheek. He didn't make one of your teeth go off. He didn't make your eyes red. So when you are going to reply him in the same measure in which he gave it to you. Don't slap him and then dislocate one of his teeth, or maybe cause harm to his eyes. But if it is possible, because it is not possible to reply in an equal measure, it is possible to just forgive. This is what actually places Muslims at the middle of these two extremes. You can reply, but it will be preferred that you forgive. But if you cannot forgive, you can reply. If you want to reply in an equal measure, because there are times that one becomes a foolish man when somebody slaps you and you don't reply the person. In point of fact, Muslims have certain limitations to beatings. When somebody just hits your shoulder, bang, the likelihood of you not replying is very high. Or the person hits your back, pine, you may just forget about it. But when the person slaps you on the face, my brother, attempting to forgive a person who slaps you is mere nonsense, because slap takes away a person's dignity, or it takes away a person's masculinity. This is the reason why many women end up being beaten by their husbands, because you can beat a man anywhere. He's a husband beater. He said, where did you hit? And he beat you. If you were just hitting his shoulder, no man will beat a woman for hitting his shoulder. No man will beat a woman for hitting his chest. No man will beat a man for even hitting the back. But when you slap a man on the face, essentially, you are questioning his masculinity. And any man who is in his right senses will reply you. And that reply can be brutal. So you see, Muslims are expected to put everything in its right context. You don't put something like kako in somebody's mouth, and when the person finishes eating it, you tell him to smile or talk. And then when he talks, you tell him that your mouth is smelling. Yes, so you can't do that. If you do that, you are not being fair. And this is exactly what is going on between the Western society and their Israeli alliance and the Muslim world. You are telling somebody, you are destroying somebody's pride, you are destroying somebody's courage, and then you say, keep quiet and let me destroy you. You have the right to defend, I have the right to defend myself. I'm destroying yours. Keep quiet, don't reply me. Doesn't make sense. It doesn't. In all other way you want to look at it, it doesn't make sense. But this is the society that claims to be humanist, placing the human person at the center of human affairs. So ridiculous. Anyway, thus, in the Quran, humankind is perceived as the vicegerent of God. So the summary of the long narrative is that Muslims are supposed to be moderate. A Muslim is not supposed to be extremist. So when a Muslim displays any act of either extremism or going beyond the board, that person obviously veers off the tenets of Islam. That is very important. And Muslim scholars have stood against people who display acts of extremism unanimously. So here, mankind has been seen as the vicegerent of Allah. Man is in control of everything on earth. He decides to use any aspect of nature for his own benefit. Has God not done some? The goat that you slaughter and eat, how much do you give to God? Allah says pay zakat. When you pay the zakat, which one do you actually attach to a plane and throw it into space? The zakat, whether zakat or sadaqah, that Allah says pay, so that He reward you or He rewards you. Which one do you pay to Him?
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I want to come with you from there. There's this particular issue of this sacrifice we have just finished, the Eid al-Adha,
Mm-hmm.
the Zabah we do it.
Mm.
When you look at the verse, that is encouraging this one.
Mm.
God is saying that لا ينال الله لحومه ولا دماؤه ولكن
Mm.
the essence of all these things is for humanity. At the end of
We,
the
we didn't
day,
we didn't hear
slaughter
the
the
beginning.
animals.
We didn't hear the beginning. Oh, your line is
I
breaking.
said,
Mm.
I said,
Mm-hmm.
I said, when you look at the sacrifice we have just finished, that is the Eid al-Adha, the Zabuh we did, the
Mm-hmm.
animals we slaughtered.
Mm-hmm.
The verse that is encouraging that one, when you look at it, it centers on humanity.
Mm-hmm.
Because God says, "Lan yanalu llaha luhumuhu wala dima'uhu walakin yunalu taqwa."
Mm.
When you look at it, it doesn't. When you slaughter the animal,
Mm.
it doesn't benefit God anything. Whether God doesn't want the meat, God doesn't want the blood.
Mm.
But at the end of the day, it will what encourage you to have the fear of God. Because at the end of the day, the meat, they say you should share it among human beings,
Mm.
among your colleagues, whether the fellow is a believer or not. You know, as far as you give it to the fellow and bring happiness to the fellow, give it to the fellow. So when you look
Mm.
at it,
Mm.
that
Come on again.
Islam really,
There was a break again.
are we
Oh,
together?
there
Oh,
was a
sorry,
break
sir.
again.
Okay, then my
I think
line,
I think
sorry.
your point is well made. I mean, it's
Okay,
just an example to support whatever I was saying. So that
okay,
is a very good example. I mean, the meat that you are sharing, supposed to share to humans. Islamic law has two types of division. One of them says you should divide it into two. Then you serve one to your family, you serve one to the community of both Muslims and non-Muslims. The other one says divide it into three. Take one for your family. Then you take one, you share one among the Muslims, and then you share one among your non-Muslim, one among your non-Muslim neighbors. So in all, as I indicated, God Himself doesn't get anything out of that sacrifice that you made. In fact, the meat is known as Qurban, and Qurb has to
that
do
is
with
it.
holiness. So that, I mean, it's a determination. Look at how much a cow costs today. At least a cow that doesn't cost some 5,000 Ghana cedis will clock. I mean, this is about 2 years old, maybe 2.5 years old cow. You understand that? At least some 5,000 Ghana cedis will crush. Some will go as high as 150, is it 15,000? Yeah, 15,000 Ghana cedis. Yeah, and just imagine if you have this kind of money, maybe at worst you can get some Tezzy, second-hand Tezzy to buy and use it for commercial driving. But you use it to go and buy meat to come and slaughter it, and the following within a matter of 3 days, everything is finished. If you are not somebody who fears God, you will never be comfortable doing this kind of thing. It's something that is based on commitment to the divine cause. You see that? In the end, it is humanity that is at the center of the whole thing. If God really wanted a human, and that is why Muslims reject the whole doctrine of Jesus Christ being used as a sacrificial lamb. If God really wanted a human being to be sacrificed, when Ismail's father Abraham wanted to sacrifice him, God said, "No, take this ram and use him to sacrifice for me. I am the one who created a human being. If I want a human being to be sacrificed for me, why would would I have to allow human beings to be sacrificed before I forgive the very human being I have created? It doesn't make sense. You see that? So the whole doctrine is based on the humanity, not God Himself. If you don't do it, that is why if you don't do it, you don't commit any sin. This is something you are doing for yourself. So if you have the means, do it. Going to take a loan for the purpose of doing this kind of thing, to say the least, it doesn't make sense. You see that? Because this is sacrifice. You are just doing it for the benefit of humanity. Even though you have to fear God to be able to do service towards humanity. So that fear of God does not mean that you have to stress yourself. Far from it. Muslims are given that freedom to be able to decide what really will benefit them in the long run. If you can't, it's not by force. You understand that? So really, if you look at every aspect of values, every requirement Islam has placed on Muslims, you see that the hallmark of it, the whole central theme, or the essential point of it, is that humanity has to benefit. God doesn't need anything from us. Look at the Hajj that people are going. Somebody will go and stand by there was this viral video, that video that went viral, where a man was standing by the Masjid al-Haram in front of the Kaaba and saying, God should give him money. God should give him money. When you go to the Hajj there, socialization, you will think that you are the only Muslim here in Ghana. You would think that you are the only Muslim who is poor. You would think you are the only Muslim who is rich. But when you go to the Hajj, it reminds humanity about that day of recompense, a day during which no soul shall have the power to say anything for fellow human, for fellow human, for fellow soul. You understand that? You go there and you see that, in point of fact, in the sight of Allah, there is no difference between rich people and poor people. Whether you are rich or poor, that is the first point where you will see the equality between rich people and poor people. When you go there and eventually you come back, you will begin to humble yourself. You will see that Obia and Yobia, whether you are rich or you are poor, that two unsewn pieces of clothes is what you're going to wear. You see that? So the whole of the practices, the whole of the tenets, the whole of the laws, the whole of the ethics, the whole of the values, all of them are targeting human beings, not God. If you don't do them, God doesn't lose anything. It is for your own benefit and the hereafter that you do them. And if you do them, that reward is something, according to the Quran, Allah will never fail you. I hope that is clear. That's the concept of optimism. Let me check our time. Oh, okay. We have just about 6 minutes. Anyway, since we were late, let's end it exactly at 9 o'clock, and then we give ourselves some time for clarification, questioning, and all that. The concept of optimism manifests clearly in the awareness of the human dignity, which ranks humankind as the best creature. You see, of all that Allah has created, God has not placed any particular attention to any of them other than humankind. The angels, when according to the narrative, the angels in heaven, they are not doing any other job. There are angels that are performing rukui. They have bowed for God throughout, and that is the kind of job they will do till the judgment day. There are angels whose forehead is on the ground. They will continue to serve in this position throughout. Look at the four archangels: Jibrail, Mikael, Azrael, Israfil. These four angels are angels that have been placed towards or placed on certain responsibilities that they are supposed to discharge to human beings. Jibrail is the angel in charge of message. That message is not sent to a fellow angel. No angel sends another message to another angel. Jibrail, the swiftest, the smartest, indeed the biggest of all the angels, have been placed in service to humanity. There is an angel in charge of sustenance. Allah knows that when we come to this earth, we will need water, we will need rain. So Mikael has been placed with the responsibility to make sure that he provides us all the avenues for generating good meal for ourselves, for getting water to drink, for getting fertility of the soil so that we can cultivate and get what will sustain us throughout our life on earth. Mikael. We have Azrael. Azrael is the angel in charge of death. This is the angel that has been charged with the duty of managing our life here on earth, observing, monitoring. He will not be able to deduct a single minute or a single second from the time we are expected to depart from this earth. When the time comes that we have to depart, Azrael will have to come and take your life smoothly and send it to the one who gave it to you. They are not serving any other purpose than just this. Israfil. Israfil has been given a clock. Observe. You are in charge of blowing the trumpet. The trumpet that is going to give humankind the opportunity to meet the Creator. Do not let a single minute pass. Do not blow the trumpet a minute before it is time to do so. So Israfil has its eyes clearly on the clock, so that when the time comes, he will have to blow it for humankind to get ready to face judgment. There is even an angel in charge of hell, the hell that humankind is going to enter. It is only those who have done the acts of aggression that will be allowed to enter hell, so that that place will not be left open for the wrong people to enter. So God has placed an angel to be in charge of the entrance of the hellfire, and that is the angel known as Redwan.
Malik.
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 You see that this is the angel that has been placed with the responsibility of making sure that hell is protected. It is one of the most wicked angels because of the job that has been placed at its doorsteps. There is an angel in charge of heaven. This is the angel that has to take care of heaven and in preparation for human beings. This is the angel known as Redwan. It will stand at the gate of heaven, rendering service to the good people that have listened to the orders of Allah, to avoid what is evil, to do only that which is permitted. There are angels even in charge of the grave. There are angels that are in the grave waiting for human beings that are going to be buried. Well, we pray that when you are placed into the grave, God will give you the best of reception. These are Munkar and Nakir, two very wicked angels that are also placed in charge of the grave. They are there waiting for you. Prophet Muhammad, in one of his traditions, indicated that when a person dies, be in hurry to go and bury the person. If the person is actually a virtuous person, the earth is in a hurry to receive it or receive him or her. If that person is an evil person, the society wishes that such a person will leave the community. So in all other cases, you have to quicken to take the person away into the grave. So Munkar and Nakir are waiting for you in the grave. And they are not friendly angels. May Allah make our own very smooth for us. Apart from this, even as we are walking, there are two distinguished angels that are guiding us. Not in respect of them showing you where you must put your foot. No. We call them Kiram and Katibin. Kiram and Katibin simply means two honorable writers. What they do is to take an inventory of both your good deeds and your bad deeds. So that, as I said, there is no single good that you commit that Allah will make to be forgotten. There is no single bad that you commit that Allah will cause it to be forgotten. It is only that which you commit that you'll be rewarded with. Kiram and Katibin is not the name of these angels, but these are their, call them appellations. That's the name they have been given together. They are given as Atid and Raqib. Atid and Raqib. These are two distinguished angels that are in charge of the recording of the. All these angels we are mentioning, they don't do any other thing except merely recording or executing specific responsibilities for humankind. But see the kind of freedom. Unfortunately, also, these angels are not even going to enter the heaven with you. Not even the one at the entrance of heaven, Ridwan. Ridwan is not there to enjoy the fragrance of heaven. It's like, according to Israeli narrative, seeing, what do we call it? Seeing Canaan and not stepping there. In the case of Moses, they only see the heaven there and what is happening there. That authority has not been given to them to enter. You understand that? But of course, since they are the ones guiding it, they have been made immune to it. That should tell you how important humankind is for the Creator. So Quran says, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. We have certainly created man in the best of molds. Just look at the way Allah designed humanity. When your back is itching you, see the way your arm has been designed. You can just bend it, even though you can't scratch every part of your back. Where you are unable to scratch, you can even take a stick, and the way you bend the hand to be able to, you can still scratch even without a stick. You touch it here, you are not able to reach there. You can take the other side, and then you try. If you don't reach there, then you can use something else. God has made your system so flexible. Compare your system with the model of an elephant. When an elephant feels like eating, the nose that he uses to breathe is what he uses to gather the food before sending it to its mouth. Just imagine just taking something from your nose and putting it in your mouth. How comfortable will you feel? I mean, how comfortable will you be? Or better still, when the elephant wants to drink water, it uses the nose to siphon water, to pump water from the river, and then it will take it into its mouth and exhale it into its mouth. No matter how clean your nostrils can be, I don't think it will be that clean for you to exchange food between your mouth and your nose. But this is this is something that doesn't give a certain creature any choice. But see how Allah has created you. After giving you this beautiful structure, man has been given simple instructions. Humankind says, I will never, we will never follow these instructions. So who are you? What does God do to you? In the Muslim literature, we read that when God was coming to create humanity, he first sent Jibreel. Jibreel is the ancient Arabic name for Jibril, what we call Jibril. Jibreel was sent to go and bring the earth with which man was designed. Jibreel, on going to the earth said, Billahi nafsi fi yadihi. I swear by him in whose hand is my soul. I will never allow you to take me for the design of an ungrateful being that will occupy the earth. So Jibreel was not allowed by the earth to take the soil. According to the narrative, all the four angels, including even the angel of death, tried without success. Then Allah allegedly sent Azazel, the angel that became known as Iblis later. It's not an angel anyway. That being, according to the narrative, it was created and indeed given even powers angels were not given. And because of that, it became arrogant. Azazel was a being in charge of the angelic world. Scholars are divided. Some say it was even among the company of the angels. Others say it was not really an angel, but it was mixing with the. None of them really makes that sense. But that is not our important, our main point of significance. Because it doesn't make sense to say somebody was not created of the angels and yet he was mingling with the angels. I don't think a cow can mix with the goat. But scholars want to just capitalize on the fact that he disobeyed God and the nature that he had. makes him different from the angels. The point of significance is that Azazel, who is known as Lucifer in the pre-Quranic literature, was given a certain responsibility far bigger and far more respectable than all the other angels. Call him an inspector of the angelic world. And that is why I personally want to disagree with the scholars who want to say that he was not an angel. Probably he was, but then he abused that right. Because this narrative is valid because it is not only Azazel who disobeyed God and was reduced to mere nonsense. There are these two creatures that later became known as Harut and Marut. Again, Muslim scholars in their normal denial mode have denied the fact that Harut and Marut were not angels. But of course, our interest is not there now. Otherwise, we'll raise a lot of questions that the same Muslim scholars have not been able to respond to. So, because of that, when Azazel went and the earth issued its own statement, I swear by him in whose hands is our soul, I will never allow you to take me. Azazel gave him an equal reply that the one who has our soul is the one who sent me. So whether you like it or not, I will take you. Consequently, Azazel was able to, according to the narrative, take the soil with which man was designed. Afterwards, according to the Quran, after man has been created, God asks the angels to give names to what he had created. But remember, as I indicated earlier, that divine knowledge which gives man the power to know things beyond his worldly capacity had not been given to the angels. That ma'rifah, the divine knowledge God gives to a person, and that person will be able to do a lot of things that ordinarily he might not have the power to do, the angels didn't have. And so they did not succeed in giving names to what Allah has created. And God gave man the power to name all that he has created. Consequently, Allah ordered all the angels to bow, not for God himself, but for Adam, as a respect for the wonderful thing of naming what Allah has created. You see, this is the part that gets more intriguing. You, man, after, if it is true that Azazel went and brought the soil with which you were created, Allah said, because you were given a certain divine knowledge that made you capable of naming what he has created, Allah asked the angels to bow for you. All the angels, according to the Quran, bowed, except Azazel. Azazel questioned why he was created of fire. And that is the reason why the Muslim scholars deny that he was an angel. Because he was created differently, quite different from all the others. He said, I have been created of fire. Why should fire bow for just mere clay? As a result, according to the narrative, God asked Azazel to bow out of his earthly, what do we call it, his divine position Allah had given him. Consistent with the narrative, it was Azazel who had the moral power, who has the authority to even order the appearance of the sun and order the appearance of the moon, the celestial bodies. It was in charge of it. All those positions were ripped from him because he failed to bow for humankind, Adam. You see that? So today, if God now asks you, Adam, Ibn Adam, Banu Adam, or Bani Adam, Adam's children, that bow for us, bow for me, Allah, and you say, I will never bow for you, how do we classify you? What do you think God should do to you? Because when Azazel refused to give you human being, a prostration. Allah sacked him. In fact, punished him for daring to pursue that vision. So if you now also decide not to do it, what should God do to you? On that note, let me land here with full hope of you asking questions, clarifying issues, critiquing problems, and drawing attentions to issues of challenges, so that we close. We'll say goodbye to the lecture and enjoy the rest of the night. Thank you very much. Now, questions, clarification, disagreement. Ladies and gentlemen, any question, observation, clarification, disagreement?
I'm here, sir.
Uh-huh. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think the very last point you brought,
Mm-hmm.
I think Adam,
This is your
the
network.
way the way God created Adam,
Mm-hmm.
and how He ordered the angelic world, the angels, to bow before Him.
Mm-hmm.
And today's system we are in as far as we are studying, is ethics.
Mm-hmm.
What we see is that arrogancy doesn't take us anywhere.
Mm.
Because when you look at Azazil, as you mentioned, he was a bit arrogant, if I'll be right.
Mm.
And that is why he said he will not bow before any, something that is created with clay
Mm.
when he was ordered. There's also another lesson you would know. God doesn't care whether you are a sinner or whatsoever. When you seek him, he will be with you, because at the end, the Azazel asked for a favor and he was given, even though he has disobeyed God.
Mm.
Not that today, what we are seeing, what is the benefit of the what you see that the children, the only lesson I want us to take here
Mm.
is that whosoever you are, in as far as you are a teacher, then
Mm.
anybody who is teaching you, whether you are grown than the fellow or whatsoever, in as far as the fellow is giving you knowledge,
Mm.
the fellow, you need to respect the fellow.
Mm.
So
In
these
fact,
are
there's
the
a
areas.
yeah, okay. There's a direct quote even from the traditions of Prophet Muhammad from one Mujahid that
Mm,
respect the one from whom you gain knowledge. Knowledge is not something to be arrogant with. Arrogance of knowledge. Anybody who displays arrogance
yes,
in
sir.
the circles of knowledge will be humbled down, because
Yes, sir.
nobody really will be able to acquire all the knowledge on this earth. So anybody
Yes,
who
sir.
becomes arrogant merely because he acquires a certain, well, after all, that the marifa, the other strand of knowledge, which is divine knowledge, is not something that is even, it's not, in fact, it's just a negligible percentage of it. That which will make humanity capable of knowing the purpose of creation. That's the only one that is given to the prophets. And these prophets are all noted to be infallible because they are guided by God Himself. In other words, man cannot get enough knowledge at any material moment to be able to just feel that he is on top of the whole world. Now, lie. You see, so humility in learning is a very important requirement. As a matter of fact, knowledge is supposed to make a person more humble, not the other way around. So, if you are able to advance uh, on the ladder of knowledge, and because of that you become arrogant, then in fact, God detests, or as it were, hates people who are arrogant, because He's a humble God. And two, we can't have two gods. Once you begin to make yourself arrogant, it means you are going against the laws of God. And when you go against the laws of God, that which will follow is destruction. And so that is actually a very important thing to note all the time as teachers and all that. When you are teaching, you have to recognize your own, the limit of your own knowledge. Don't make the students feel that whatever you don't know does not exist. Sometimes, if you make your students think that you know so much, the experience I have is that when you finish and you ask them to even ask questions, they will not be willing because they think that if they ask questions that are not informed by maybe sound logic, you may end up destroying them. Not destroying them as in you tearing them apart, but you may make them feel that like they don't know anything. That is one experience I have. And so sometimes you need to recognize the limit of your own knowledge so that the Arabs have a proverb that man qal, whoever says la adri, I do not know, وهو يتعلم, and learns afdal miman la yadri, miman yadri وهو يتعظم. That is, he who knows and says I do not know and learns is better than him who knows but puffs himself up. He knows. When he knows, and then you try to ask him, you see him struggling, trying to arrogate. Trying to make himself very knowledgeable, and in so doing, he will be, saying so many things, and then in the end, people will now get to know that now you don't even know anything. This is an Arabic proverb. So all the time, when you are teaching as teachers, you need to teach as though you are giving allowance for students to also express their ideas. And when somebody expresses ideas and that idea is not informed by common sense, especially those of us who are teaching Islamic studies, somebody may ask you a question that will make you feel that, hey, it doesn't even take Muslims as believers. But it's part of the deal. You need to handle them carefully so that you don't make them feel as though they are attacking you. You have to, if you want to humble them, you need to talk to them in a way that will not hurt them, despite them having very preconceived knowledge about what you are teaching and all that. And say, for humility in learning, it is very, very important. Anyway, thank you very much for that contribution. Any other? Any other observation, disagreement, critique? The women are not talking at all. Why? Are they gone? Hello?
We are here.
Hey, you are not talking. Now they say women should be allowed to rule the world. But all the time you are silent.
Meaning we are
Hmm?
clear with everything. Meaning we are clear with everything.
No, but you need to also teach us. Even if we are clear, let us also know something. Such as our brother, used a very interesting allegory to teach us. His contribution has been very helpful. But you have to also let us, even if you understand, let us know you understand. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
Uh-huh. Because remember, when we were reviewing the course outline, we indicated that contribution, what do you call it? Attendance to lectures and contribution to class discussion are essential requirements. You see that? Because that is what will make us know your level of understanding. In the end, later, some of you will apply for recommendations. I want to go for my master's, so write a recommendation for me. Now, here is the case. I never even heard your contribution. I may not even know you. And then you're asking me to write a recommendation for you. How do I say that this person was very brilliant? He was making very important contribution to discussion, blah, 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 when I never even heard you talking. And say, let us know how, whether you have understood them or you don't understand them. Critique. Let us hear your critique. Let us hear your contributions. Anyway, in the absence of no other, is there any other critique, any other observation from anybody? My brother who talked, what's your name?
Isa
Is he on?
Abubakar Isa.
Isa Abubakar.
Oh, okay. Abubakar, yo. Is there any other issue? There were some angels I mentioned. I didn't spell them. Did you get the spellings?
Jabril.
Not a sir.
Did you get them?
Network is not. My network is not yet very good today, so that's why myself
I
I
heard
hear some, I don't hear some.
I heard
Oh,
Jabril.
the angels. The angels,
Yes.
they were, I mentioned Jibrail. Jibrail is
Jibril.
how, that's how my name is spelled.
Yes. That one
Jibrail.
there, I'm keeping it.
But you can also
You
pronounce it as
mentioned
Jibril.
Jibril,
Yeah, Jibril.
Mikael,
Jibrail.
Israfil,
Then Mikael. Then what do we call him?
Israfil,
Azrael. And then Israfil. And then we also
Munkar,
mentioned Malik.
Munkar.
Malik is both an attribute of God and the name of an angel. As an attribute of God, it means the king, but it is also the name of an angel. You see that, which is in charge of the fire of hell, Jahannam, to be specific. Hell also has degrees. Maybe next time when we meet, we'll look at about 7 levels of Jahannam. So even when you go to hell, not all of us are going to be at the same level of the hell. Just as heaven also has about 7 levels. So we'll look at the levels of
Hello,
heaven. Yes.
hello, sir. I think one
Yeah,
of
we are
my
listening.
madam say if they go to hell, if you use the word if you go to hell, it will be like you are referring to us. I don't know
Ah,
whether you are hearing me.
I've understood.
So if you are giving an example, the bad one, he will say them. Who are those? He would not mention. He say he has said them. So take it like that.
Remind me. Yes, sir.
Please,
Yeah,
sir, you
talk. We are
said
listening.
hell. Hell is called. Please, sir, how is hell called in
Hello.
Jahannam, Jahannam.
Hmm.
Yahannam?
Hmm.
Yeah, hello, say sir.
Yes, Jahannam.
Jahannam. Okay,
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
my network is very
Yeah.
bad. So
okay, Jahannam. Okay.
Yeah. It's okay. It's okay. We are hearing, but you didn't say. You didn't hear what you said at the beginning.
I said,
Uh huh.
one of my Arabic teacher told me that anytime he's referring to anything bad, he doesn't use
Mm-hmm.
his students or somebody as an example. Like you said, when you go to hell, no, he will
Mm-hmm.
say when they go to hell. He will never say
Uh-huh.
when you. It will,
Oh,
when
okay.
he say you, it will be like you are
Uh,
referring to the one who is listening to you.
yeah, listening.
No.
Of course. I mean, we are. We don't know. Only God knows where we are going.
Yes,
And we
sir.
will know where we are going only when you see there was a time during the time of I think one of the prophets. I've forgotten a bit. I think it was the time of Moses or one of those prophets around the Mosaic period when he was going to God. These are all narratives that we call them allegory. They may not be true necessarily, but they contain very important lessons. When he reached a certain man who had not who had been worshiping God all the time, so much so that he gives a lot of zakat, he gives a lot of sadaqah, he worships God all the time, devoting the whole of his life to the worship of God. Then, when he saw the prophet, he said, when you go to God, inquire for me whether I will go to heaven or I will go to hell. Then the prophet, when he went to God, he asked God that one of your servants on earth asked me to inquire from you whether he is going to heaven or he will go to hell with all the deeds that he has engaged in so far. And God said, tell him that I will admit him to heaven. So when he came back, he told the man that Allah says I should tell you that because of your deeds and all that, he will admit you to heaven. The man said, wow, this one, if God didn't send me to heaven, yeah, then it will be a very difficult thing because of all the worship, the way I have devoted my life to worshiping God, definitely God will send me to heaven. What? So he was bragging, virtually bragging that God has accepted him and he will send him to heaven. Then another time he was going, he saw a certain man who didn't even have clothes to wear. He had covered himself with sand because he was not, he was naked. When the man reached there, then he told him, please, when you go to God, ask God whether I will go to heaven, I will be admitted to heaven, or I will be admitted to hell. So when the man also reached God, he asked him. This man says, I should ask you. He doesn't even have something to cover himself with. But he still asks me to ask you whether he will be admitted to heaven or hell. Then God said, if you go, tell him that I will send him to hell and say he should prepare. When the man was passing, the what do we call him? The prophet was passing. He told him, God said, I should tell you that he's going to send you to hell. So prepare. The man said, Alhamdulillah. Praise be to Allah for even remembering my name, even among the occupants of hell. Because on the day of judgment, some people are just going to be just gathered together and thrown like dust into the hell. So if God has been able to single my name alone and really recognizes me, I am grateful to him. So the next time the man went to God, God told him that if you go, tell the man who expressed gratitude to me for even promising to send him to hell that I will admit him to heaven. Tell him that I will send him to heaven because of just that level of gratitude he has shown me for even saying I will send him to hell. The other man who was bragging, tell him I will send him to hell, rather. That kind of thing. So the point of significance is that it is only God that knows where man really will go after death. We only pray that we will be admitted to heaven. Because there's a hadith that says that man will work. Some people may not, I think last week I said it here. Some people have not been created of heaven. In fact, they are not created to enter heaven. But they will do only things that will take them to heaven. But because they have not been created to enter heaven, when they are left with even an arm's length of, arm's length to die, no, arm's length to enter heaven. That is death. It's only death that separates them from heaven. But they have not actually been created of heaven, so they will stop. With that, just an arm's length to die, they will stop to come and do what will take them to hell, so that they will enter hell. So, in point of fact, only God knows where human beings will go after death. We only pray that He will add us to His faithful servants, and that the prerogative of deciding who has to go to heaven is not merely by mouth. Me, I will go to heaven. Otherwise, everybody will hope to enter heaven. But it's only God that decides who will enter there. May God decide our affairs in our best interest. It is very scary to think about the nature of hell because of the fire that we get exposed to every day. If this is the place man is going to dwell permanently, consistent with the Quranic revelation, then may God have mercy on us on that day. Anyway, I hope there is no other issue again. Have they informed you about when you are going to take your quiz?
Yes, sir.
When?
That's first week in July. So next weekend will be, it seems to be our last lectures.
Hey, Okay. All right. Then maybe when by Sunday this time,
Okay.
remind me so that I give you the areas for the quiz.
Okay.
Yeah, but as I've said, the quizzes are just going to be objective.
Yeah.
They're going to answer just about 20 objective questions.
Okay.
Some of them are going to test your ability to reason, because remember we are dealing with philosophy. So your ability to reason will be tested small. So
Wow.
relax. Don't be in a rush to answer questions, even though the questions have not been set anyway. But just bear in mind that we are going to deal with philosophy basically. How many are you?
We are 9, sir.
Oh, 9. Dear, you are not. You don't have huge numbers, so I think we will have mercy on you so
Thank
that you
you,
can
sir.
all do well. So just relax,
Thank you.
relax, and then just concentrate on the material. I will
Okay.
give you, by the time we close, maybe on Sunday, I will give you one sample question. Yes, sir.
Yeah, what listen, what will I call it?
Is he gone?
He said
Because
his
you are
network is
writing the
disturbing.
quizzes on online, online.
Ah, are you writing online?
No, the first one is a written
Yes,
one.
sir, we are writing the
That one we are
quizzes
going to the
online.
centers. The
So
second
it's
quiz is
a
on.
very serious problem. When the network is
Ah,
not,
why?
both of them,
Why
both
are they?
quizzes are.
Why are they? Why are they not bringing them to your center so that you write them physically?
Please, we write the first one to us at our centers, and then the second quiz is online.
Hmm.
2 quizzes.
Because
The first
this
one,
this this online this online quizzes and all that, because of, why don't you? Oh, but how many centers do you have?
I think there are more than 10.
No, I mean you as in the ethics people.
We have various centers as we are all at our various places.
Ah,
With this
because
particular course,
Sometimes it
some will,
doesn't give you
some will
a
be
hint of
alone
the
at
because
their
if you look and you are
centers
reading by time, problem.
because this one is a
some-
major course.
but the various centers, they always bring the questions there, even if not ethics. They bring the questions from the various centers. And so they bring the questions to the various centers, because I have personally come to code some of the centers to invigilate before. You
Yes,
understand
sir.
that I've come to?
The first quiz we will go to our various centers to write. It's the second one after the examination that we do it online.
Why don't
Madam
you?
All of
Charity,
them. The
you
first,
are
but the
mistaken.
first
The
one is
first quiz too
online. The
is
second one
online,
is
but
online.
in
Both.
our center,
The first one is online. The second
Okay,
one is
both
that one will go
online.
to the center.
okay.
It's online. The second
Okay, it's
one
true,
too
it's true,
online.
it's true. It's true. We do it at the
Why
centers,
don't
but
you?
online.
Why don't you? Why don't you tell them so that maybe they can send it to the person anyway? It's just the way the question will leak. Instead of them doing it online, they could just send them to somebody who is trusted to print them for you. Even if one person is at the center, they can send it to the person. Maybe invigilation, they will say they will also take money. They are only trying to break the the cycle of them being paid allowances. When you do it online, then it means they themselves are going to invigilate. Then in that case, they have to give you more time, because doing some of these things online requires a lot of time. So instead of, probably if they are thinking of giving you maybe 20 minutes, they may have to rather give you 40 minutes because it is online. Because it is not like having the thing in front of you. If you are using your phone to answer questions, by the time you scroll to see the whole of the question, about 2 minutes is gone. So maybe you may want to protest. You may want to petition the authorities asking for more time if the quizzes can be organized online. I think that will be better. Because as a matter of fact, now, even on campus, they are pushing for this online quizzes, but I personally have not really been impressed with it. Because as we were struggling to get online, if your network is misbehaving and you are not able to go online, then you have failed. So rather, you should tell them to give you more time. If the normal time is 20 minutes and they give you even 30 minutes, ask for more, because this is online, and it means that if you are not able to get very good reception, it will be difficult for you to I didn't know that this is how they do it. For the regular program, there are many. So they bring them to the center. And for this thing, when they do it online, how successful is it going to be?
Doc, they are giving us 21 minutes.
See, 21 minutes online when you are using your phones.
Yes, please.
Then request for more. Just rather petition them so that they will give you more time. You understand that? I think when you tell them, if you come together and tell them that, look, some of the courses are a bit difficult to just try to joke online. So they should rather give you more time so that you'll be able to get the opportunity to do the thing well. But this is your life. You pay school fees and then they come to gamble things like this. It becomes a source of worry. So you try to protest or petition them and tell them that doing something online is not as easy as they are thinking. So they should give you more time. The 21 minutes is really not adequate. If all of you, don't you have SRC or something in this code business?
Sir,
Hmm?
there is a particular course
Hey, he's gone. Samuel.
we offered. That is literature.
Mhm.
Why, why, why?
So it's like a
I don't know
passage.
what to say. We even say we have to petition them because what you read is different. What they ask you to read is different from what you will see.
Samuel. Yeah, but I mean, you are all part of the stakeholders. If something is not going well with you, protest. You just complain. Complain to them that, look, this thing you are doing to us, we are not happy because you are major stakeholders. You are paid. And say if you have any SRC or anything, you can just tell them that, look, we are not asking for any big thing. We are only asking for more time. So if it is 20 minutes face to face, they should make it maybe to 30 minutes so that I can get the opportunity to do the thing well. Hmm? I now understand. Anyway, let's see what will happen. I mean, it's good that you have informed me about this so that we can factor it in the setting of the question, because it's not like somebody doing it face to face. That one is different. So you don't worry, we'll see what to do. Hi.
Yes, sir.
Thank you,
All
sir.
right. So these are all part of the reason why you have to talk. If you don't talk, you think that we should know, and in the end, you see that you are going to be the losers. So you have to talk. Oh.
Okay,
Anyway,
sir. Mhm.
let's see what will happen. In the absence of no other question, can we end here and enjoy the rest of the night?
Okay, sir.
All right, then bye bye.
Bye. Thank you very much.
You are welcome.
Thank you very much.
It's gone already. Okay. Okay.